And away we go. Monday edition of the show. All across America, SportsMap Radio. Our many affiliates. Worldwide. On the SportsMap Radio app, we got a lot to do over the next 3 hours. It's a Monday in the NFL, and that means we've got Monday Night Football covered top to bottom for you. If you're watching on the video stream tonight over on Twitch, twitch.tv/JasonPage77, if you're looking for me there, you might notice these funny things on my head. The kids call them headphones. I'm not used to wearing them. It's kind of odd, but literally minutes before the show, I could not find my in-ear monitors that I wear before the show starts. So I get to wear these funny-looking things on my head as punishment for misplacing my earbuds. So that'll be fun tonight. I get to be like you, Austin Rodriguez, who is engineering/producing our show in Houston, Texas for us tonight. I get to be just like you. I get to wear headphones tonight. Wore them forever. It's the reason I'm deaf. Crazy Monday night game. 1 million injuries. Kyler Murray got carted off 77 seconds into the game. We'll let you know what's going on there. Non-contact injury. Does not look good. It's a knee. Not coming back into the game. At one point, he was questionable, and then they just decided, yeah, he's not coming back in. And whenever you see those kind of injuries in this league, you know it's not good. And you had a couple of guys on the Patriots who have left the game and aren't coming back. And at the end of all of this, what do you have? A game being played on natural grass, which every player wants. We all must play on natural grass. And then they play on natural grass and everybody gets hurt. So you know what? They're going to get hurt no matter what. It is a game that is inherently dangerous. And this will continue to be an issue in this league for as long as this league is around. I'm off my soapbox. The rest of week 14. Oh, we got plenty to talk about from there. Another week that just shows none of us know anything about the NFL. We know nothing about it. We all think we do, but we don't know anything. We'll get to that coming up. Stick around. I'm Jason Page. We're just getting started. Monday edition of the Cash In. SportsMap Radio on the SportsMap Radio app. I don't know where these friggin' earbuds went. This is crazy. Be right back. Where they went? It's just so goofy.
And I went to look for my cables. I can't find them. The 3.5mm cables. Oh, geez, it's just a cable if you want. Use my...
Oh, for that?
Mine are very good, you know.
I know they're very good. If you happen to see my things in there, let me know. Possible they could have fallen out of my bag in the trunk when I was at the... Just checking the trunk and on the floor. Oh.
Remember you bringing them out on Saturday?
No, but I always stuff them in this. So they could have fallen out.
What about... Do we go anywhere on Sunday? We stayed home both on Sunday.
13-10. Cardinals on top of the Patriots. And look, if you are the Patriots, you have got to be able to beat the Cardinals with Colt McCoy. Otherwise, you have forfeited your right to be in the postseason. I mean, let's just be honest about it here. 13-10, Arizona leads. 12:29 to go, third quarter. Still a lot of football game left in this one, and we'll keep tabs and let you know what's going on as it relates to this matchup. All right, let's talk about the breakdown of Week 14 and everything we saw around the league in Week 14. And it's another one of these weeks where everything you think you know, you don't. Or maybe not. I don't know. Look, I have from day one. Let me start with Minnesota because they've been one of my whipping boys throughout this entire NFL season. I've told you they were fake. I've told you they were frauds. And you found that out again in Detroit on Sunday afternoon where the Lions are playing good football. It finally feels like they've got that ship turned around and going in the right direction. I don't know if it leads to the playoffs this year because, as we've chronicled on this show, they built themselves such a big hole that even at 6-7 in the NFC, unless the Giants and the Commanders fall apart, it's very difficult or the Giants or Commanders fall apart. It's very difficult to envision a scenario where the Lions are able to get in the playoffs. Hey, if they went out and finish 10-7, then we'll have a different conversation. And maybe their schedule, in some regards, lends itself to that. They're at the Jets this week. Who knows what's going on with Mike White, the rib injuries. They're at the Panthers after that, and the Panthers have been gritty and gutty and are still, as crazy as it sounds, within a game of the top of the NFC South at 5-8. The Bears, if they mailed it in by that point on January 1st, and then at the Packers. The Lions making the playoffs could come down to January 8th in Lambeau Field against the Packers, who, by the way, they did beat earlier this year 15-9. So, if of all the 5-win teams that came into this week 14 at 5-7, the Lions are the team that you feel like may have the best chance to actually turn this thing around and make the postseason. It's pretty remarkable what they've done there. And the culture has changed. And hey, we finally got a team in the NFC North that's on the positive side of the point differential this year. It is amazing how many there are 1, 2, 3 different divisions where every team is a minus point differential. There is no way that's ever happened in the history of this league through 14 weeks. No way. We told you Tampa Bay would lose this week, so that puts the Panthers and Falcons squarely in position to still be able to win that division. Who knows what's going on with Atlanta? They've made a change at the quarterback position coming out of the bye week. We'll see what happens. Carolina. Let me just say this about Carolina, and I don't want to waste too much time on it because it is Carolina and they're 5-8, and I don't care if they win the division; they're still not going anywhere in the postseason. Steve Wilkes deserves that coaching job. Take the interim tag off him. Give him that coaching job. He's earned it. He came in and took that thing over when it was taking on so much water. They were a mess at quarterback. They trade away their best player in Christian McCaffrey. They've got issues with, guys on the team or mouthing off at the coach. And now here they are going into week 15. They are one game out of a playoff spot. I don't care if it's the worst division in football, maybe the worst division we've ever seen in the NFL. I don't care. The fact that he still has that team playing hard every week, he gets the absolute max out of that roster. Steve Wilkes deserves that job. He has earned that job with what he has done as interim head coach. Make him the damn head coach permanently. All right, I'm off my soapbox. We mentioned Minnesota, and I kind of strayed away from them for a second because we were talking about what Detroit was. But, I mean, at the end of the day, I don't care what Kirk Cousins' number said. The team can't run the ball, and they cannot stop anybody. You cannot be a team I take seriously as it relates to the postseason when you're giving up as many points as Detroit has given up. And Fox flashed the stat across the screen yesterday. I want to make sure I get it right, so I'm actually going to read it here because I actually took a screenshot of it while I was watching the game yesterday. 5 straight games allowing 400-plus total yards. What do you think about that? 5 straight games. And you think about it, there's a lot of good defenses in this league. And those are the teams I take seriously as threats to win the Super Bowl. Much like great pitching beats great hitting in the playoffs in baseball, great defenses beat great offenses in the playoffs in the NFL. And it's been proven time and time and time again. 5 straight games allowing 400-plus total yards for the Vikings. That is the longest single-season streak in the history of that franchise. No purple people eaters there. And you know what? Jared Goff said last week, during the week, that he was playing his very best football of his entire career. And you know what? Damn it, I believe him. We believe you, Jared. She went to Jared. He went to Jared. 27 of 39, 330 yards, 3 touchdowns in the win. And Detroit is playing meaningful football going into week 15 of the season, which is amazing. The Giants are officially pretenders. It took me a while to get off the boat, and I might be one of the last ones, and I don't know if there's any lifeboats left for me to jump on, but the Giants got absolutely destroyed this weekend by the Eagles and proved that they are not part of this class of football teams. And they might, look, at the end of the day, they might still make the playoffs. I don't think they're going to. I think right now this team is a mess. Daniel Jones has regressed. And I know this game against Washington, I almost don't want them to win this game against Washington on Sunday Night Football on NBC because it's fool's gold at this point. This team is not that good. Washington is better than the Giants right now. At this point of the season, Washington is playing better football than the Giants. Heck, I'd even argue that Detroit is playing better football than the Giants. Seattle, they lost a tough one this weekend. But, man alive, did the Giants get their doors blown off at home by Philadelphia, who wanted to make a statement. They want to be taken seriously because even at 12-1, they have their naysayers and their doubters. And I'm not going to lie to you, I'm one of them. Because I've watched how they've sort of navigated through a very easy schedule throughout this season. And now some might want to say, hey, they've made it look easy. And that might be a fair argument. There might be a conversation to be had there. And I'm still not necessarily a believer that they're the best team in the league, despite the fact that they are 12-1 and hold that record. But they certainly made a statement in New Jersey this weekend against the Giants at MetLife Stadium. There's just no getting around that. Jacksonville. I mean, here's another one. The AFC South. Jacksonville beating Tennessee, and the Titans have just been an enigma all year long. They've played some really good teams tough. And Jacksonville, who I remember we had our our buddy Matt Verderam from Fansided on their national NFL writer, and he thought before the year Jacksonville could be a playoff team. I guess theoretically they still could if they were to win out, which isn't likely. And they actually have the best point differential in the AFC South. They're dead even. But 5-8 isn't cutting it. But they are starting to see signs of Trevor Lawrence being the real deal. That has to be very encouraging for that organization. Baltimore won this weekend. They've got injury concerns. We'll get into that coming up a little later on. Kansas City, it wasn't pretty, but they won in Denver. And it took Russell Wilson being injured in that game. He finally started to look a little bit like the Russell Wilson of old. You know, what I keep thinking about Russell Wilson, and I was thinking this as I was watching the game the other night, and we'll talk about it with Nick Ferguson coming up from the Touchdown Denver podcast, former NFL safety, regular on this show, will join us coming up in 18 minutes. I was talking about this with somebody on Sunday while I was watching the games, but Russell Wilson looks like a poor man's Russell Wilson. I want you to think about that. He looks like the poor man's version of Russell Wilson. Still does a couple things well once in a while, but I watched him try to heave a long ball down the field. It was a wobbler. It didn't have anything on it. Can't really throw the deep ball the way he used to. Not that he was ever great at throwing it, but he certainly can't throw it as well as he used to. Then he gets hurt when he starts running the football, which is probably why he wasn't running the football. He looked like he was knocked out, by the way. I don't know if they officially ruled him out because of a concussion or what that was late in that game when he got knocked down. He had that big lump on his head, that big knot on his forehead. But that certainly looked like a concussion to me, and he wanted to come back in the game. So you have that whole situation, but Kansas City continues to roll. They get another win, and the Chiefs are 10-3 on the season. Some people will look at the interceptions for Patrick Mahomes, say there's cause for concern there. I am not one of them. I think he is a guy that gets bored very easily out there on the field, especially when that team is able to run up a lead, as it did. And then there was the Sunday night game, where you're starting to wonder if the league has figured out how to defend against Tua Tagovailoa and this Miami team. Because the Chargers are not what you would call an all-world defense. And they've had some issues on that side of the ball this year. And they basically shut down Tua and the Dolphins in that game for, 48 minutes. The one offensive touchdown the Dolphins got was basically a garbage touchdown late in the game. So I want to ask Nick Ferguson about that. Has the league figured it out? San Francisco last week, the Chargers this week. Have they found the blueprint for slowing down Tua Tagovailoa? We'll get into that coming up a little later on. Live betting, we'll keep our eyes on the Patriots and the Cardinals. It's 13-13, about midway through the third quarter of that game. We'll give you the numbers on that. Come back and talk about it some more. The phone number, if you want to be a part of the show, 1-800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. You can tweet at the show. I welcome it. At the back page. Again, hit me up on Twitter. At the back page from anywhere in America. Stick around. We're just getting started. Glad to have you with us on this Monday edition of the Cash In. It's SportsMap Radio. Thank you for being with us on a Friday edition of the show. Oh. One 1-800-224-2004. 800-224-2004. Hit me up on Twitter at any point throughout the show at the back page. Again, on Twitter at the back page. So we got a 13-13 game, 6:19 to go, third quarter in Monday Night Football. One of our favorite things to do on this show is live betting. It's where the future of the gambling industry is. Amongst other places, I think futures betting is going to get really big too. Just remember I told you. I did not do good on Paige's picks this weekend, by the way. I was hot garbage. I did a bonus pick. So we had 5 picks this week in Paige's picks. I went 1-4. And this is one of those weeks where I actually said to my partner, I said, I think this is going to be a great weekend for Paige's picks. Like, there's some weeks that I have got a lot of tough games to pick, and I've just got to pick the best 4 out of the tough bunch. This week, I felt like every pick I had was solid. And I go 1-4. Just when I thought we were starting to get it together. So we're 28-29 for the season. We're back under 500. We'll try to do better this week. Just disappointing. Very disappointing. I owe you guys better than that. That's all I'm going to say. I owe you guys better than that. So here's where we are in the Monday Night Football live betting bonanza. Right now, it's Patriots minus 2.5 on the live betting line. They are minus 148 on the money line. And the Cardinals are plus 116. You know how I feel about home underdogs. I'm just saying, even with Colt McCoy, you know how I feel about underdogs. Cardinals have the ball, by the way, 1st and 10 on their own 6-yard line. 41.5 is the total for this game right now at 13-13. And if I were to be leaning anywhere, it would probably be towards that under. Hard to imagine these two teams combining for over 41.5 points right now, unless you start getting some defensive scores, which you never know. If you get good special teams, you pin the team back. It's certainly possible. I don't have a great feel right now for the live betting on this game. I would probably be leaning towards, though, the under at 41.5 if I was going to go on anything. By the way, and everybody knows how high I am on Dallas and how high I am on San Francisco. And Dallas did not look good for basically 3.5 quarters yesterday against the lowly Houston Texans, who played hard. Again, another team that's playing hard for Lovie Smith. I don't know if Lovie Smith is just a placeholder for Josh McCown in Houston, and they were satisfying the Rooney Rule, so they put him in there for a year. And if they finish with 1 win this season, they'll blow him out under the guise of, well, we just really stunk this year, so we needed a different head coach, and Josh McCown becomes the head coach of that team next year? I don't know. But that team has played hard for him, and that's all you can do when you're got a deficit in talent. And when you're starting guys like Davis Mills and whoever the other guy that was they started yesterday who came in and played several possessions in that game. I mean, I don't know what you're expecting from Lovie Smith in that situation. I mean, it's not conducive to winning. I can tell you that. Jeff Driscoll, that's who it was. Jeff Driscoll yesterday, who was 4 of 6 for 38 yards. But what you really had to be impressed with was Dak Prescott and what Dak Prescott did in that game when it mattered most. Now, I know people are down. He threw 2 interceptions in the game, and that's certainly what kept Houston alive. But Dak Prescott, when it mattered most yesterday, drives the Cowboys down the field, 95 yards, 98 yards, whatever it was, for what turns out to be the game-winning score. And just like last week, I said it was huge for Geno Smith to drive Seattle down the field for a game-winning score, lead them from behind in the fourth quarter. I think this Cowboys team needed to see that out of Dak Prescott. They needed to see him be able to drive this team down the field when it mattered most late in the game. And I'm still there with Dallas. I haven't gotten to San Francisco yet. I'm saving them for a little later in the show. But to me, Dak Prescott, that was a huge effort from him late in the game on a day where he didn't have his best. I equate it to baseball where, you've got the veteran pitcher who doesn't have his best stuff, but he's still able to get you 5 1/3 or 6 innings of 3-run ball, keep you in the game long enough so that you can get a long ball late and win the game. That's what Dallas did yesterday. They stayed in the game. They didn't play their best football. Zeke didn't do a lot. Pollard didn't do a lot. If you look at their yards per carry, and I know the team had 127 yards on the ground, but it was a very blasé effort. It was a team, again, playing down to its competition, and we see this all the time in the NFL. I want to ask Nick Ferguson about that. This idea of teams playing down to their competition. He's a former NFL safety. He'll join us coming up in about 6 minutes on the program and get some thoughts from him on that notion of teams playing down to their competition and how real it is. But Dak yesterday, very real when it mattered the most. 20-13. Did they just get a defensive touchdown? Austin, did I just say that? Didn't I just say the only way that game goes over if you get defensive scores? And what happens? The Patriots get a fumble recovery for a touchdown. Thank you for telling me that, Austin. I appreciate it. Because I'm hosting a show, so I intentionally do not put a screen in front of me just for that reason. My dog is making all sorts of noises back there. Can we keep that animal quiet for 5 seconds? My God. I have the tiniest dog, and you'd think he was a Rottweiler tearing up my condo. Jeez Louise. I give up. So the Patriots get a fumble return for a touchdown. Raekwon McMillan. And I told you, you pin teams back. And you force Colt McCoy to have to play from deep in his own end of the field. And this is the sort of situation you're going to wind up with. So the Patriots lead now 20-13. I would be shocked if they relinquish that lead. I still think the under's a good bet. Because I think the Patriots will get conservative on offense. Chip and check down. And I just don't know. If they keep giving the Cardinals a long field to deal with, I don't know if Colt McCoy at this stage of his career, I don't know if any stage of his career, he was capable of driving teams on long drives. Can I say one other thing about Colt McCoy? Can I get this done in 20 seconds? Colt McCoy is still in the league. He was drafted in 2010. Other than early in his career, he's never really been a starter other than replacing somebody with injury. You're telling me Colin Kaepernick couldn't start in this league or couldn't be a backup in this league, but Colt McCoy still is? Give me a break. Nick Ferguson's next. Ah.
Thing that we do in life, there are rules and regulations. And listen, I don't fault you because you didn't know. You were just asking a friend a question, and it was all on me whether I was going to disclose to you who I was voting for or not, and I chose not to.
I'm glad you didn't, because I wouldn't want you to get into any hot water. So I was talking about the Cowboys and Texans yesterday, and even in the case of the Chiefs, you can make this argument. Playing down to the competition, playing to the scoreboard. How real is that? As a guy that's played in the league, has played at the highest levels in both college and the NFL. Not to mention the UFL. Don't ever forget the UFL. How real is the idea of playing down to the level of your opponent?
It is definitely a real thing. We see it in sports all the time, because one team comes in knowing as though, hey, they're not really competing for anything, so they're going to give you their best shot. The other team comes in knowing as though, hey, they're playing for everything. Their records indicate they're a quality team. And then they walk into the building and they go, hey, you know what? You flip the switch and we're going to be able to line up and play against this team that we feel is inferior. And sometimes, to be totally honest, there are guys who don't really study. And I played with a couple of guys knowing as though we were facing an inferior opponent, and they didn't really study the way that they should have studied. And then they got a rude awakening. It's like, oh, okay, now I know that this team, they may not have a great record, but they're playing for jobs for next year. And that's exactly what we saw with the Houston Texans. I mean, let's be totally honest. Being at 1-11, this is not a really good Houston Texans team. And you can say, okay, well, maybe they're one quarterback away. They're one thing away from every single position. So it's going to take a little more for that team to be competitive. But that's exactly what happened to Dallas. They walked in and they felt as though, hey, this team is going to roll over. And then they saw that Lovey's team is going to have a little fight. And then they felt as though, listen, hey, Dak, hey, we need to make sure that we make plays at some point in this game to make sure they win the game. And I was watching that game saying, wow, could you imagine what people are going to talk about if the Dallas Cowboys lose this game to Houston? If you think that going into the last 2 weeks, they've been talking negatively about the Cowboys and their chances to make the playoffs, knowing as though Philly is still sitting there, they would have ripped Dak Prescott and Mac McCarthy apart.
It's amazing how short-sighted fans are, though. And even the media sometimes. And I include myself in that. I mean, this team through 14 weeks is 10-3. If they had lost this year, let's just say that, God forbid, the worst case happened, and they wound up losing their 9-4. This team, what they've endured at the early part of the season and where they are now, I don't think people appreciate how good of a job this team has done to be where they are, the position they're in right now. Yeah, they're probably not winning the division. That goes without saying, unless Philadelphia has a massive collapse. But I still feel like with that defense, and I know yesterday was not their greatest example and their shining moment, I still think this team's got a shot. I know people don't believe in Dak, and rightly so. He's only won once in the postseason, and if I'm going to kill Lamar Jackson for the fact that he's only won once in the playoffs, and then I get it. But I still feel like this Dallas team has the potential to do something really special, at least get in terms of getting out of the NFC.
Yeah, absolutely. They're kind of like a dark horse, and I'll say flying under the radar, especially looking at what Philly has done, and they're playing fantastic. But this is a part of the year where you want to start to get healthy and start playing your best ball. And let's be totally honest, when we look at that Cowboys offense, I don't see a lot of threats from an offensive standpoint. You have Pollard, you have Zeke, you have CeeDee Lamb, you have Dalton Schultz. But once again, it's about the arsenal, having a bevy of weapons to roll out there. And I think if T.Y. Hilton, who they signed today, can get on track, now he becomes a guy that you can use in the slot. You can use his vertical speed to open up the short and intermediate routes for a guy like Dalton Schultz and CeeDee Lamb. So I know everyone was hoping that, hey, Odell Beckham Jr. was going to go to Dallas.
Not me.
Listen, I'm with Jerry. I'm with Jerry. I don't know what he is right now. Yeah, there's a lot of hype around him because he's Odell Beckham Jr., but he hasn't played and we haven't seen him run.
Let me tell you, Nick, I did not want that team. And I'm not a Cowboys fan. I'm a fan in the sense that I think they could do something special this year, but I'm not coming at this with fanboy goggles on. I never wanted them to sign Odell Beckham Jr. because I'm of the mindset he comes in with a distraction. He comes in with an expectation of getting a certain number of touches. If he doesn't, he becomes grumpy and starts crying on the sideline. I think that T.Y. Hilton was such a better bet for this team over the short term. You don't have to make any long-term commitments to him like you're going to have to with OBJ. Frankly, I'm shocked that T.Y. Hilton wasn't still in the league somewhere already.
Yeah, that's the kind of interesting thing about the league, right? NFL, not for long. And I believe Jerry Glanville coined that phrase. And it is really difficult because you got to think about it. I mean, and I always tell young players, and teams hate when I say this, but it is true. You have to look at yourself like an independent contractor, because when you're giving your team your best years, everyone loves you. All right, you sustain a couple of injuries. Now you're injury prone. They kick you to the curb. They bring in a new, fresh model, and they just tell you that you're outdated. The one thing about T.Y. Hilton, and you're absolutely right, I was surprised that he was out there, this long, because I just look at his vertical speed. He still has exceptional route running capabilities, and he will help any team in the NFL looking to make that leg push. And more importantly, you don't have to make a long-term commitment. And if you're a T.Y. Hilton, this is great. You got Dak Prescott throwing you the ball. If you have a great season, they go to the playoffs, whether it's in the first round or the second round, it helps you out because, one, you're getting paid to extend your career. Other teams get a chance to see you, and then you get a chance to sign maybe with another team in 2023.
Yep. Talking with Nick Ferguson, host of the Touchdown Denver podcast, former NFL safety, joins us here on the Cash In on SportsMap Radio. All right, Touchdown Denver podcast is your baby. So let me ask you about the Broncos briefly here. Russell Wilson goes down with the injury late in the game yesterday, but through 3+ quarters, you kind of felt like this was the Russell Wilson, or closer to the Russell Wilson that you signed up for at the start of the season. If you're a Broncos fan, I know there's no moral victories when the team is 3-10, but was there something positive to be taken out of that loss yesterday?
Absolutely. And we know this as competitors in any sport, there are no moral victories, but there are some positives that you can take out. This is the second time this season that the Broncos offense scored 28 points. And it looked entirely different. I mean, the offensive line was banged up. They had to rotate 3 guys in at the left guard position, right? And that tells you how bad things, were for the Denver Broncos. And you're down 27-0 to a team that is almost at full strength in the Kansas City Chiefs, and you had not beaten them in 13 tries. And everyone in the stadium thought the game was pretty much over. Josie Jewell gets that interception, and that was kind of the linchpin to starting to rally back by the Denver Broncos. And even though things didn't look that great for Russell Wilson at the beginning, it's a cliche saying, but it's not how you start, it's how you finish. You got that team kind of fired up. And, I mean, Jerry Jeudy, another guy who has been criticized here in Denver, 3 touchdowns. So if you were a fantasy owner, he had the same amount of fantasy points as Justin Jefferson's, 33.3 fantasy points. So it was great to see Russell go out there and play the way he did, and the team battled back. That's the most important thing, because this game was flexed out of the Sunday night game in favor of the Chargers Miami Dolphins game. And you have to figure, looking back at it, the league had to be kicking themselves and saying, listen, this was probably the game that we wanted to see, even though the score was 34-28. But it was really exciting towards the end. And then seeing Russell lay his body on the line, trying to dive in and get those extra yards. He ended up being concussed. For me, as a fan, that's what I wanted to see. You were absolutely right, Jason, when you said, okay, but this is the Russell we expected to see. We saw him pulling the ball down, running, and, oh, by the way, he led the Broncos in rushing, right?
That's a problem, though. At this age, he cannot be leading that team in rushing.
No, it's not something that you want for 17 weeks, but, at the sake of saying that there's going to be pressure, and he was under pressure a lot, there was an escape hatch to the right side of that Broncos offensive line, and he took firm advantage of it. And I go back and you look at some of the early games of the season and say, well, if Russ had pulled the ball down and ran for a couple of first downs, maybe it would have helped extend drives when the pocket pressure started to break down. But it's one of those things that it raises a question. Russ didn't run at the beginning of the season. The fans here in Broncos country were upset. Now he's rushed, and he rushed for a couple of yards. He got injured. Now he's going to be in concussion protocol. I wonder how those fans feel about Russell now.
It's a good question. Can we all agree Minnesota's hot garbage? I don't care what their record is. I mean, you go 5 straight games giving up 400-plus yards. I don't care what your offense does. If you can't make stops in the postseason, it doesn't mean a damn what you do offensively, because good defenses are going to beat good offenses come the playoffs. And this Minnesota Vikings team, I'm sorry, it is just not for real.
Well, I mean, I knew you were going to say that because you feel as though they're trash anyway. Now, the defense under Ed Donatel has not performed the way that you would have liked for them to perform, but I still won't call them hot garbage because I still like what their capabilities are on the offensive side of the ball. And just think, I mean, hey, they played against a Detroit Lions team that's been fired up and playing some great football over the past couple of weeks, and you lose by 11 points. You know, it's not like you got blown out. And I know the idea is it's the Detroit Lions you lost to. But this is not your father's Detroit Lions. And Dan Campbell has those guys on fire. So I'm not on board with you, Jason, saying that the Minnesota Vikings are hot garbage. And I knew you could not wait. You couldn't wait on Sunday, right? As soon as I look at my phone, it's a tweet from you. It was like he could not wait. You couldn't wait.
No, couldn't wait. Sorry. Hey, look, I got to tell you this too. We only got a couple minutes, but you know, the Giants are the same thing. I was the last one to get off the Giants boat, and there's no lifeboats left for me because I hung on to this idea that the Giants had an identity. They could win with a combination of defense, running it with Saquon, but they've looked terrible the last few weeks, and Philadelphia really sent a message yesterday in New Jersey against Big Blue.
Well, see, that was your first problem, right? You hit your wagon to the Giants, and I don't know how, for some reason, you saw what they were doing and say, hey, this is a quality team. I believe in Daniel Jones. I believe in Brian Dable, and Saquon Barkley is going to carry them over the threshold. No, I would have told you not. That wasn't going to happen because when you look at them offensively, outside of Daniel Jones being able to pull the ball down and run and handing the ball off to Saquon Barkley, who are you throwing the ball to consistently outside the numbers? No one. So while you talk about the Minnesota Vikings not being able to stop anyone, apparently the Giants that you hit your wagon to, they couldn't stop anyone. They couldn't stop a nosebleed. It was so interesting how Jalen Hurts and the Philadelphia Eagles just move up and down the field. And I know the Giants scored 22 points, and it kind of made it seem like, oh, this was a game, and then the Philadelphia Eagles just kind of pull it out. No, it's not. You know, you want to talk about garbage? Those points was in garbage minutes. So, hey, that tells me a lot. You know, talk about the Minnesota Vikings, but you hit your wagon to the New York Giants, and I can't believe it.
See, I'm a good host. I gave the guest the last laugh. See? That's what kind of a host I am. I am magnanimous. I gave you the last laugh. That's Nick Ferguson, host of the Touchdown Denver podcast. I didn't get to ask you about the Heisman, but we all knew Caleb Williams was going to win. Much deserved. I'll talk to you next week. Have a great week, my friend.
All right, school.
Nick Ferguson joining us on the show. We'll come back and wrap up the hour next. You're a funny man. Skull.
I can't believe you just were believing a hype with the Giants.
Well, wow. I was starting to come off it the last couple of weeks because it was starting to look bad. But and Dable got as much out of that team as he could. They don't have any threats in the receiving game, and that's I hated letting Evan Ingram go. I love Evan Ingram. I thought letting him go was a mistake, and I mean they needed Odell. They need Odell more than anybody. But if he's not going to play, it doesn't matter. But even like a T.Y. Hilton, why wouldn't they have signed? You know, taken a flyer on a T.Y. Hilton? Like I said, I was shocked that he was a free agent.
Well, that's because they didn't really believe in T.Y. They were looking for someone with a big name that would kind of spice up everything for the Giants. And Odell really wasn't going to change anything for the Giants. Let's be totally honest. He comes in, he becomes the number one wide receiver. Teams now roll coverage to him until they figure out, oh, he can't really run the way that he used to, right? And now we can single him up. And now you've committed money and resources to a guy for, 2 seasons that is probably past his prime. So to me, it wasn't going to make any difference. And do you actually think adding Odell Beckham Jr. was going to put the Giants in the Super Bowl? I mean, if you believe that, I got some swamp land I want to sell you.
Have a good week, my friend. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Talk to
be
you
well.
soon.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, later.
Pitchy, pitchy, woo-woo. Luka, another huge night. Pitchy, pitchy, woo. Well, so much for making that under bet. I'm glad I didn't lock it in because the Patriots have scored a couple of touchdowns in the third. 27-13, Patriots on top. That game is early fourth quarter in Arizona. And look, that's why I said when it was 13-10 Arizona, I said, despite the fact the Patriots were down, you just couldn't think they were going to lose this game with no Kyler Murray at quarterback for the Cardinals. And they may have lost him for the year, by the way, for those that might just be tuning in. 77 seconds into the game, goes down with a non-contact knee injury. And those are usually not good news. It's not one thing, it's another with Kyler Murray. You really got to feel, whether you think he's I don't think he's a particularly great quarterback. He got paid great quarterback money because he's one of these dynamic guys that can throw it a mile and can, run and do all those things. And he's one of these, this new hybrid athletic quarterback. But I put him in the same category as Lamar Jackson. I'm not a believer that these guys win you Super Bowls. And by these guys, I mean them two in particular. But time will tell. Might be a long time, though, because he could be out a while. All right, we're coming back. Another hour of the cash-in right around the corner. Bad news for the University of Texas. A terrible story there. We'll get to it next. Really worried. I don't know where these freaking headphones went. How about the floor in the back seat? Yeah, that's where I would have thought it was. The floor on JT's side.
That's what Russell Wilson is. You turn the crank, nothing happens. You turn the crank, nothing happens. But then you are expecting at some point for the clown to jump out and scare you, but scare you in a good way. Make you giggle, make you laugh, and get some points on the board.
Wake Up Call with Tony D and Ron Holder. Weekday mornings from 7 to 11 Eastern.
If you're missing the cash-in with Jason Page, then you're missing this. If you were the Packers GM, how would you handle this situation? You've got a guy that's won a Super Bowl, multiple MVPs, be
sides will come back together under Aaron Rodgers, 5 years from now or something. You can tell this is not going to be some ceremonial exit for Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay.
The Cash In, weeknights at 10 Eastern, 7 Pacific on SportsMap Radio.
Wake up call.
I guess we got to try to ignore all the controversies that surround Cutter. And once that first whistle blows, let's just concentrate on soccer.
See, but you just gave the perfect definition of sports washing.
I'm cutting Cutter a break, right?
Somebody in Qatar is listening into this. We've done them. Now let's figure everybody else out. They're just going to concentrate on the soccer.
Wake up call with Tony D and Ron Colbert. Weekday mornings from 7 to 11 Eastern.
Red Nation with Fred Fowler and Greg Frank.
If Sean McVay can get this team to, let's say, 11 wins and win the division, that would be really impressive. Because I just don't see that kind of ceiling in the regular season with this team. Now, if he sneaks in as a wild card and wins a bunch of road playoff games, also very impressive. I don't know that I'm seeing that either, though. The next 3 months here, learn a little bit more about how good he is. He's a very good coach. I'll give him that. Right now, he's probably a top 5 coach in the game. We always talk about how having Belichick automatically means you win 10 games. If McVay that kind of like all of a sudden you have him as your coach, he makes a 7-win team a 10-win team.
I think so.
Okay.
I think there's a lot that they'll be able to pull together here. And frankly, it's a 17-game season. There's streaks every year. There's teams that start off slow.
Red Nation, weekday afternoons from 1 to 4 Eastern. If you're missing the Cash In with Jason Page, then you're missing this.
Josh Allen is dealing with this right elbow injury. A lot of times teams play coy with this stuff. If I'm the Buffalo Bills, I play it very conservatively. You cannot afford to have him tear that UCL. It would be catastrophic to the Buffalo Bills season and potentially to the career of Josh Allen.
The Cash In, weeknights at 10 Eastern, 7 Pacific on SportsMap Radio.
No, we can play that game too. I've done this before on this show for everyone. The NHL with their upper, lower body injuries. The NFL has to come out with injury reports. And then college football, they won't ever talk about who's injured. And then Saban blames the reporter always for asking about the injured quarterback. It's the reporter's fault. So I'm just going to start doing it now. Listen, fat ass. Your quarterback has a high ankle sprain, and he's a mess. He can't throw the effing ball anyway, and you and Shane are getting rid of his ass anyway in the offseason. How's that for your injury report? How's that, fatso? Huh? How's that? I'm done listening to these coaches with their little media games. I'm going to start giving you a taste of my medicine. See how you like that taste? That cough syrup.
Pharrell Coast to Coast with Scott Pharrell. Weekdays from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern.
Imagine learning about radio and being mentored by true radio professionals in real radio stations. Actually, you don't have to imagine because there's Radio Connection. Radio Connection gives you the opportunity to learn one-on-one and be mentored by radio pros. Plus, you don't have to worry about getting into a crazy amount of debt with school tuition either. Radio Connection keeps their tuition at much lower costs. To find out more info, visit radioconnection.com.
Or was it?
It was in my black bag. Why did you put it in my black bag? Oh no, this isn't your thing. This is. Oh, this is your thing.
Why would it have been in your black bag?
I know why. I thought it was that pouch with the eyeglass white.
Just go.
So sorry, honey.
Just go.
The late night action continues. It's time for another hour of action. This is the Cash In with Jason Page on the SportsMap Radio Network.
Another hour of the show starts right now on SportsMap Radio and the SportsMap Radio app. Glad to have you with us. 27-13, the Patriots lead the Cardinals Super Bowl odds betting. We'll give you that coming up. Give you some futures. It's coming up in a little bit. The telephone number, 1-800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. Feel free to tweet at us at any point during the show at The Back Page. Again, on Twitter, at The Back Page. Whole bunch of baseball signings over the weekend. Everything is kind of falling into its normal rhythm now with this offseason after Aaron Judge made his big decision to return to the Yankees. But there's still a ton of moves to be made out there. Still a lot of players left to be had. Carlos Rodon, there is news in terms of potentially his next destination. So all of that will keep tabs on as we continue to go through this offseason. A terrible story involving University of Texas men's basketball coach Chris Beard that we'll get to coming up in just a few minutes here on the program. Just, again, you can do all of the surveillance, reconnaissance, scouting, interviewing of people that you want. I've made this argument for years as sports fans, and even many times most of us in the sports media. All we get are peepholes into the lives of professional athletes, professional entertainers, coaches, you name it, whatever. Politicians, even to some degree. All you get are peepholes into the lives of these very public people. And when a story like this Chris Beard one comes out, and I'll get to it coming up here in just a minute, everybody goes, oh, everybody falls, oh my God. But you can't be surprised. These are just people like you and us with the same sorts of problems many of us have. We'll get to it next on the Cash In SportsMap Radio. I got my in-ear monitors back. Life is good. We are guest free in this second hour of the show, and that means it's all about you. You got something you want to say? 1-800-224-2004. Who would you make your Super Bowl favorite to win the whole thing right now? Tell me who and why from anywhere in America. Don't just tell me a team, it's your favorite. Tell me who you think wins the Super Bowl and why. 1-800-224-2004. 800-224-2004. Hit me up on Twitter as well, at the back page. Again, on Twitter, at the back page. Let me know. Curious to see what you guys think. This Monday Night Football game, 27-13 still the score. The Cardinals were driving. That drive has been stalled around midfield now. The problem is it's taking them forever to get down the field. They might get a garbage touchdown here. The under might still come in. 27-13. It was under, I think, 41.5 or 42.5 when I told you guys about it earlier. Was not an official pick. I did not tell you to lock it in, but it was the pick I liked the most out of everything available when this game was 13-10 midway through the third quarter. Especially now you still have to even like it because the Patriots aren't going to look to score, so unless you get another defensive score, which I think you already got your one defensive score in this game, you're not likely to get another. And the Cardinals can only take a touchdown here. So if they don't go all the way down the field and score a touchdown, you're probably looking at a situation where the Patriots can run out the clock and this thing ends at 27-13 and comes in under, like I said it likely would. So just putting that out there. It didn't look good for a while, but it still is. But I want to know what you guys think. Because I have in front of me here the Super Bowl odds, which I'll get to coming up in our next segment when we do our hourly betting segment on the show. Every hour I want to give you at least one gambling segment, one sports betting segment, because it's such a huge part of American sports culture now with 30 states having legalized sports betting. Of course, two of the biggest states. Two states that are big enough to be their own countries haven't done it. Nice job, Texas. Nice job, California. But a lot of other states have. So if you're lucky enough to be in one of those states, good on you. So it's one of the more disturbing stories from the weekend. And it's a difficult one to talk about because, you never know when you see these sorts of stories. You never know how to talk about them because not everything is known as it relates to the story. For those that don't know what I'm talking about, Texas, the University of Texas, has suspended Coach Chris Beard after he was arrested on an assault charge for allegedly strangling a family member. So he was arrested. He's 49 years old, arrested early this morning after allegedly strangling a woman at his home. He was booked at 4:18 a.m. Central Time, and it's a felony third-degree assault charge that he's looking at. Police responded to a disturbance hotshot 911 call. For those that don't know what a hotshot 911 call is, it's an incident which are in progress, are an immediate threat to life and or public safety. Shootings, stabbings, rapes, riots, etc. And those are dispatched immediately. The Austin Police Department put out a release Monday afternoon regarding the arrest. They said, on December 12th, 2022, approximately 12:15 a.m., the Austin Police Department received a 911 call for a disturbance in the 1900 block of Vista Lane. The caller reported the disturbance was no longer ongoing and one of the individuals had left the house. APD officers responded, located a woman who stated she had been assaulted and strangled by Christopher Michael Beard. He was booked into Travis County Jail. He's charged with assault by strangulation or suffocation, family violence, third-degree felony. Monday night, Texas did what you would expect them to do. They suspended Beard indefinitely and without pay, and they gave one of these statements about how they don't tolerate yada, yada, yada. Will serve, and Coach Rodney Terry will serve as acting head coach for the team. Beard is out of police custody, went before a magistrate judge in Austin on Monday, had his bail set at $10,000. If it sounds like I'm reading from a story, it's because I want to make sure I read this as factually as possible, because that's all you really have in these stories. I have an opinion one way or another. That doesn't really matter. All that matters here are the facts. Like they used to say in Dragnet, just the facts, ma'am. So there's a protective order active until at least February 10th. So Beard can't be within 200 yards of the woman and the residence at which the 911 call was made. He's also not allowed to carry a firearm at this time. Additionally, while Beard is permitted to communicate with the complainant in the case, he's strictly prohibited from doing so in any type of threatening or intimidating manner. Again, all this kind of goes without saying. Last Monday, multiple media outlets acquired the affidavit for Beard's arrest. According to the arrest report revealed below, the woman told police, Beard choked me, threw me off the bed, bit me, bruises all over my leg, throwing me around and going nuts. She also told police she just did not feel safe. Wow. While on scene, Christopher was interviewed and stated that he had audio recordings of the incident where he was not the primary aggressor. The report reads, following Christopher's statement, he was asked if he would be willing to share those audio recordings, to which he stated no. These stories exhaust me. They really do. But it's a big-time university and a big-time college basketball program, and got to cover these things. Unfortunately, it's a part of what we have to do. Officers also noted visible bite marks, abrasions, and cuts. Beard's lawyer issued the following statement to local media Monday morning. He claims the complainant wants the charge against Beard dropped. Prominent Austin attorney Perry Minton, representing Beard, says Coach Beard is 100% innocent of these charges. He should have never been arrested. The complainant wants him released immediately and all charges dismissed. It is truly inconceivable. Now, look, any of us know who have watched these cases and covered them over the years. All you can do is watch enough Law and Order or SVU, for crying out loud, to know. Sometimes complainants don't want to go forward because they don't want to deal with the press, the publicity. Sometimes schools will come forward and try to convince them not to do it. We've seen it all over the years. And I hate to keep bringing this up, but as a victim myself of sexual assault as a child, these cases are very complicated for the victims, and I would not take anything that this attorney is saying at face value, because there's always a lot more to these stories than meets the eye. Now, at the same time, I have to say, you see a story like this, and you think back to, we were just talking about it last week, the Matareza story, the punk god out of San Diego, was supposed to play for the Bills this year, got cut because he was alleged to have participated in the gang rape of a minor while he was at San Diego. And ultimately, the authorities did an investigation and he didn't get charged with anything. Now, there's still a civil case going on with the complainant in that matter, but it's why I say you have to read these stories, and I have to just give you the facts as we have them, because you never really know, how these stories are going to turn out. And Chris Beard right now is staring at a situation beyond the jail time or the third-degree felony or any of this stuff. He's staring at a situation that could effectively end his career. And if it turns out not to be true, it still could be something that effectively ends his career. At least as it pertains to coaching big-time college basketball. And none of that is to dismiss or to try to squash the idea that he didn't do this or that he did do it. I'm just saying there's so many aspects to this story. And it comes back to something I said to start the hour, and I'll say it again. You don't know these people. You get a glimpse of them on the sideline. You hear them in a press conference. You might even talk to them in a tunnel before a game. You might run into them at an event. All you're getting are peepholes, snapshots, the best possible face on something. You're not getting the entire package. You're not getting the complete picture of who a person is. I talk about all the time, Brett Favre, Kyrie Irving, Aaron Rodgers. And you can go on and on and on. Aaron Hernandez, who was the receiver for the Carolina Panthers that wound up going to the jail for murdering his pregnant wife. Ray Caruth. I mean, it's just, and there's example after example. O.J. Simpson is one of the most prominent examples. You just don't know who these people are beyond the little snapshots you get. So you can't really be surprised when these stories start to come out. They're the same part of the population. When you start to look at the percentages, number of men that sexually assault women and all these different things, they're just a statistic like anybody else. They're part of those same statistics. Whether it's drug use, whether it's alcohol use, whether it's beating up a woman, whatever it may be. They're all just the same as anybody else, prone to those sorts of issues and prone to those sorts of incidents. All right, 1-800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. My question this hour, give me one team that you pick right now as your Super Bowl favorite. I'm going to give you the odds coming up on the other side, the Super Bowl outright betting odds for this for who's going to win the Super Bowl. I'll give you those coming up on the other side. We'll update you on what's going on with this Monday Night Football game between the Patriots and Cardinals as we continue. I'm Jason Page. It's the Cash In from SportsMap Radio. Keep an eye on the phones. Let me know. Because last week we discovered that for some reason the ringer wasn't on. Yeah, so just make sure you're keeping an eye on it, please. It's about to go final in Arizona, 27-13. 27-13 Cardinals trail the Patriots. So the live bet we advised you to make, did not officially make, is going to come in under 41.5 or 42.5, whatever it was, because there ain't going to be any more scoring in this game, barring something incredibly unforeseen. So the Patriots will get a win. And look, I mean, they just continue to hang around in this AFC East, which they have no right really being in. But, you know, look, if they somehow make the postseason, they're tied with the Jets now at 7-6. If they somehow make the postseason and the Jets do not, the Jets will needn't look any further than the 2 losses they suffered at the hands of the Patriots. And Robert Saleh yesterday at the game was doing his usual. After the game yesterday was doing his usual rah-rah. You know, we're going to shock everybody. It's like, okay, great. You better at this point for all the talking you do. How about more coaching, less talking? Let's try that. I will say this for the Jets. There's only 6 teams in the entire AFC with a plus differential when it comes to scoring this year, and the Jets are one of them. Somehow the Patriots are too, and I'm not really sure how, but New England's going to go to 7-6. So right now the wild card picture in the AFC looks like this. Buffalo, Kansas City, Baltimore, and Tennessee are your division leaders. The Bengals, Dolphins, and Jets are your wild card teams. Actually, I think the Patriots now leapfrog the Jets because they have the season series against them. So if the playoffs started today, the Jets would be out. And I'll say this again. Their schedule the rest of the way does not lend itself. We told you, if you listen to this show, we told you they were going to lose to the Vikings. We told you they'd lose to the Bills. I'm not confident they could beat the Lions right now. I know Mike White looks like he's going to play this weekend. He took a couple of shots yesterday in that game to the Bills. Oh, the second one he took to the ribs, I thought he damn near got broken in half. But you got the Vikings and Bills. Those were 2 losses. The teams lost 3 of 4, by the way. Now, granted, to the Patriots, Vikings, and Bills, which are, pretty good teams. Record-wise, you know how I feel about the Patriots. But Bill Belichick, I mean, I'm sorry. You could say whatever you want. Oh, Brady's done better since he left, and Belichick has struggled. The fact that Bill Belichick has this team at 7-6, and again, if the playoffs started today in the playoffs, is nothing short of a miracle. Now, some of the problems might be at his own doing, because he's got a defensive coordinator basically doing the play calling, and he's got this mishmash of a coaching unit surrounding him, and they've sort of shackled Mac Jones as opposed to what he was able to do last year. But they just don't have a lot of playmakers on that team. They had some injuries tonight. They still figured out a way to get a victory. So they got the Lions, then the Jaguars. You just saw what the Jags did to Tennessee. It's a pretty good football team. Then at the Seahawks, at the Dolphins. I mean, the Jets could wind up the season 8-9. They're not making the playoffs. I don't care what the odds say. The Jets aren't making the playoffs. Somebody's coming from behind the pack now. Somebody else is going to come from behind the pack and make the playoffs. I don't know, maybe the Raiders. Or maybe the teams that are in as of tonight wind up being the teams that get in. Maybe it's the Bengals. Sorry, the Ravens are officially the division leaders. If I'm not mistaken, the Ravens are the Ravens officially the division leaders there? Yeah, they are. So it's the Bengals that are right now the wild card team, but they would be in the playoffs. But you'd have Cincinnati, Miami, and the Chargers are your 3 wild card teams right now. Wait, am I reading that right? I read that wrong? Bills, Chiefs, Ravens, and the Titans. So Bengals, Dolphins, Chargers are your playoff teams right now. I don't think the Patriots would leapfrog the Chargers. I don't think they have any tiebreakers with them that I know of, but we'll wait and see when these records officially update. So I've got in front of me Super Bowl betting odds. Super Bowl betting odds as of right now. And I'll tell you who I like in terms of maybe some potential value picks in this regard, because we're all about value on this show. And I want to know who you guys like. 1-800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. And always you could tweet at the show at the back page. Who do you like for the Super Bowl as of today? Let me know who you're thinking. Right now, the top pick is the Buffalo Bills at plus 380. I mean, it's anybody's guess, but so the Bills are plus 380. Philadelphia is plus 450. I'm surprised Buffalo's at plus 380 after losing Von Miller. Philadelphia is plus 450. Kansas City is plus 450. Then you got a drop off. San Francisco is plus 900. I will tell you right now, that's one of my first value bets. I would bang San Francisco hard right now. That they're plus 900. Yeah, Austin, I agree with you. I don't think they're getting enough respect, but I mean, look, they're starting a guy at quarterback that's nicknamed Mr. Irrelevant because he was drafted dead last, and they plan to start him the rest of the year. So while they beat Tampa Bay this week, we all know what Tampa Bay is at this stage of the season, whether they make the playoffs or not. There's a lot of people that are going to have to take a wait-and-see approach when it comes to Brock Purdy, and you have to be honest. Let's be honest and think about this for a second. Josh Allen is the starting quarterback for the Bills. I know Jalen Hurts still has something to prove and is unproven in the postseason, but he's the quarterback of the Eagles. And Patrick Mahomes is the quarterback of the Chiefs. The fact that Brock Purdy and the 49ers are tied with the Cowboys for the fourth best odds, or the third best odds as it would be, is actually somewhat of a compliment to how good that 49ers defense is, because Brock Purdy is their starting quarterback, and he's now officially started one NFL game in his entire life. So maybe they're not being disrespected. Maybe when you really think about it, and given all the facts I just threw out there for you, maybe they're actually getting the amount of respect they deserve. Just saying. Dallas is plus 900, along with the 49ers. Those are my two teams. I'm telling you, if I'm going to put heavy wagers on anything right now, it's San Francisco and it's Dallas. Then it's Cincinnati at plus 1,000. And then you're dropping off a bit. Minnesota plus 2,000. The Ravens plus 2,000. I love the Ravens at plus 2,000. And I'm saying that as a guy who cannot stand Lamar Jackson and does not think Lamar Jackson is a Super Bowl winning quarterback. But again, the value is there. And in a one-game situation, that Ravens team is very dangerous with him. Miami plus 2,400. Some of the shine has come off that team in the last 2 weeks. Tampa Bay with Tom Brady is still plus 2,700, which seems awful high to me. They've got Tampa Bay better than the Chargers, which is nuts. I mean, I don't think either of them are winning the Super Bowl, but still, that's crazy. All right, stick around. We're coming back. We will have post-game from Monday Night Football a little later on in the show. And by the way, Navy, not very classy. We'll get to it next. Yeah, I mean, I have to be honest. When I say it out loud, maybe the Niners are getting a lot of respect at plus 900 when you consider who their quarterback is. He may turn out to be great, but who knows? Oh, it's great. Yeah, it's they're ridiculous. They're the best defense in football. I don't care what anybody says. Thank you for being with us. The Cash In on SportsMap Radio and the SportsMap Radio app. We're just going through the Super Bowl odds. Tennessee. I mean, here's a team that's a lock to make the playoffs. They're plus 4,400 to win the Super Bowl. I mean, there's teams that may not even make the playoffs that have better odds than Tennessee, which is pretty much a lock to get in unless they really collapse down the stretch. By the way, the Patriots, who just finished handling the Kyler Murray-less Cardinals tonight, they are plus 12,000 for those of you interested in that sort of thing. Atlanta, who could still win their division, is plus 39,000 if you're, well, out of your mind and just want to hand me your money. Where's Carolina on this list? Oh, there's Carolina. Plus 15,000 for Carolina. Some fun stuff in here. If you're crazy enough, and want to like just take a flyer on something, there's some pretty nutty outright betting odds for the Super Bowl. The telephone number, 1-800-224-2004 from anywhere in America, 800-224-2004. Who is your pick as of right now to win the Super Bowl? If I gave you any of these teams that I just read off, who would you put money on? Whether it's a value bet, whether it's a favorite that you want to go and bet on, who would you put it on? 1-800-224-2004 from anywhere in America. And again, you can tweet it at me as well. If you're one of the few people that are still left on Twitter, at the back page. For those who missed it, Kyler Murray was injured in this game tonight. He went down on a non-contact injury, and it did not look good. He had to be carted off. You saw him slamming his fists down on the field. And when it's that sort of injury, you're usually talking about the end of your season. And look, I mean, the Cardinals weren't making the playoffs anyway, but that's not what this is about. This is about a guy that suffered a number of injuries and has had trouble staying on the field. And you saw him kind of just go down in a heap when he tried to make a cut. And look, this is, and I'm not trying to bang on Kyler Murray or any of these running quarterbacks. Every time you see your star quarterback take off with a football and not sit in the pocket and try to make a play, inside the pocket or even outside the pocket, but not beyond the line of scrimmage. Every time you see this, watch Kyler Murray tonight. It could happen that easily. And again, everybody's going crazy in the NFL. Teams, or not teams, but the Players Association and players are complaining that they want natural grass in all stadiums. Well, guess what? You had natural grass in this stadium tonight. And you had a number of people go down with injuries, and arguably the best player on the field in this game tonight go down with what looks like a season-ending injury, and who knows how long it is before you see him back on the field. So enough with your telling me about the players and telling me about the fields and what type of grass it is, whether it's the artificial stuff with the pellets bouncing up or whether it's natural grass. There you go. You just saw it happen. 1-800-224-2004 is the phone number. But the Patriots still very much alive as it relates to the wild card chase, and still it is amazing that this team has put itself in this position this late in the season. It really is. Stay classy, Navy. And I mean that sarcastically. Look, the only time you ever talk about Army Navy is when they play each other every year, unless one of them happens to, in the case of Navy, upset Notre Dame, which it always seems to every few years. But if the story being reported is true regarding how this team fired its head coach over the weekend, then, Navy's got to take a look in the mirror and realize who they are. And I'm not talking about in terms of the military and the Naval Academy and all the great things the military does for us. I'm not talking about any of that stuff. I'm talking about from an athletics standpoint and how you go about treating people. Former Navy coach Ken Niumatalolo, whose name I probably butchered, the former Navy coach tells ESPN on Monday he was sitting by himself at his locker following that heartbreaking loss for Navy in double overtime 2017 to rival Army in Philadelphia, when athletic director Chet Gladchuk walked up to him and fired him. I mean, can you imagine? This isn't the Raiders. This isn't the NFL. We're not even talking about big-time, FBS football in terms of, one of the major conferences. We're talking about the Naval Academy. We're talking about Navy here. And for an athletic director to walk up to a coach immediately after a game, and I get what this game means to both these sides. All you had to do was watch the reaction of those players on the field, the jubilation, the exhilaration from the Army side, and the absolute heartache on the Navy side to understand what this game means to both sides. But take all of that into consideration, and just for a second, think about the fact that you were just on the losing side of that game, the game-winning field goal by Army to get the 2017 double overtime win. So the coach, the now former coach, says, first of all, we just got kicked in the gut. I was a little bit numb prior to him saying that. So most of it, I couldn't comprehend. I'm just like, Chet, why don't you take some time to relax? He said, well, it's been building up. And this is what the athletic director was saying for himself, as if it matters. That's been the constant bar we strive for, is to achieve those two goals, which I believe they are very realistic and very reasonable and have been consistent for 20 years, and therefore this does not come as any surprise. By those expectations, he means that the team wind up in a bowl game and that they win the Army-Navy game, the Commander-in-Chief's trophy. And Gladchuk basically said, it's just an expectation that unfortunately fell short, adding, without any question of a doubt, the expectations were communicated to the head coach before the season. I spoke directly to his representatives who asked me exactly that question, Gladchuk said. I conveyed it to them, and I conveyed it for 20 years to the head coach. There's no confusion with regard to what the expectations are, and I think they're realistic, they're reasonable, they're attainable, they're expected, they're resourced. I can't make it any clearer. Now, here's what I'm going to say to that. Even if all of what he said is true, even if everything Chet Gladchuk said is true, you're telling me you couldn't wait till Monday or Sunday night when everybody's talking about the NFL and give this guy a little cover? You're telling me you couldn't wait until Monday to fire this guy? You had to fire him while he's sitting at his locker right after a game? Navy finished the season with 4 or fewer wins 3 years in a row. They're 2-5 in the past 7 matchups with Army. Again, take all of that and put it aside. Take all of that and put it aside because none of it matters. There's still a right way to do things. Army, Navy, Air Force facing similar challenges. A lot of the lost COVID time, a lot of his guys didn't receive an extra year of eligibility due to lost COVID time. But And there's just a right way to do things and a wrong way to do things. And unfortunately, I feel like Navy did not show itself from an athletics standpoint. I want everybody to listen. From an athletics standpoint, it did not feel like Navy acquitted itself well as it relates to this story. Updating a story we talked about last Friday on the show. We were all shocked at the news, and I'd rather get to this now because next hour I know we'll be heavy on the post game from the Monday night football game. The Grant Wall story, his body and his belongings have been sent back to the U.S. They're in U.S. hands now. And the questions will start to become, what is an autopsy reveal and all of that stuff. Right now, it's just, your thoughts just have to be with his family. His wife, Dr. Celine Gounder, the loved ones that cared so much for him, his fellow journalists that cared so much for him. But on the heels of that story last Friday comes this story. A second journalist dying suddenly at the Qatar World Cup. Khalid Al-Mislam, a Qatari photojournalist working for Al-Qas TV, died on Sunday. Cause of death not yet known. According to reports, he died suddenly while covering the FIFA World Cup 2022. So no word on the cause of death in this one. Just terrible. Just 48 hours after Grant Wall had died covering the Argentina-Netherlands game on Friday night. And we've all seen the tweets out there from his brother, Eric Wall, who is gay, alleging his brother was murdered because of his criticisms of the Qatari regime. And he is still very active right now on social media. And we'll have to wait and see what the reporting looks like on this story as the days and weeks sort of play out and we get an autopsy that reveals what the cause of death was. And I feel bad that his brother is, had such a terrible reaction to this story in terms of what he thought may have caused it. And he's been sort of trying to walk back some of the initial comments he made. And who could blame the guy? In the moment, his brother just died in a country that's not friendly towards gay people, in a country which he was investigating for all the deaths leading up to this World Cup. But it's another example of why it doesn't matter who you are, you have to be very careful. In the last place anybody should go to when they're emotional is social media. And I see it all the time amongst people I know, just on my personal social media, on a Facebook account. I see people post the most personal things in a moment of pain instead of just taking a breath and waiting to sort of decompress a little bit. See it all the time. Feel nothing but heartache for Eric Wall and the family of Grant Wall. But there's still so much we don't know about this story, and I'm sure we'll learn it in the days ahead. 1-800-224-2004 is the phone number, 800-224-2004. Feel free to hit me up on Twitter at the back page. We'll get set to wrap up the hour. We'll hear from Cliff Kingsbury, the head coach of the Arizona Cardinals, as it relates to the injury to Kyler Murray. I'll tell you right now, it does not look good. Hey, Bill Belichick should be in a good mood. Maybe he'll give more than 3-word answers in his press conference tonight after a win. We'll have to wait and see. Stick around. More to do on the Cash In at SportsMap Radio. All right, Monday Night Football is a wrap. If you missed it, the Patriots come from behind, down 13-10 in the third quarter. They beat the Kyler Murray-less Cardinals 27-13. Murray injured 77 seconds into the game. Non-contact injury to his knee. We will hear from Cliff Kingsbury coming up after the top of the hour and find out how serious that injury is for Kyler Murray, if they have any sense as to whether or not this is a season-ending injury. I don't think they're going to know anything till tomorrow, and I would anticipate at that time tomorrow we're going to hear that Kyler Murray's done for the season. I mean, there's no real point if you're, even if, it's a sprained ACL or something like, there's no point in running him back out there this year in a season that's essentially done. I know you want to get him on the same page with DeAndre Hopkins and try and get some positive momentum going into the offseason, but at this point, you're just better off going and getting a draft pick, getting a better pick. So we'll get to all of that in the next hour. You'll hear from Bill Belichick, Mac Jones as well. Stick around. Another hour of the cash-in is right around the corner on SportsMap Radio and the SportsMap Radio app. Yep. Yeah, what's up? You there? Were you talking to me? Austin? Austin, are you there? a Monday/Tuesday edition of the program. Thank you for being with us. 1-800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. Got something good to say? Say it. Hit me up on Twitter as well, at The Back Page. Again, on Twitter, at The Back Page. Some more injury news to get to in this hour. As tough as the injury and loss of Jimmy Garoppolo was to the 49ers, Deebo Samuel, losing him would have been probably worse when you consider what kind of offense the 49ers run and Samuel's importance to that, even with the addition of Christian McCaffrey. We'll have injury news on Deebo coming up a little later on. I mean, man alive. I mean, we talked about the Chris Beard story, which is terrible for its own reasons, but Mississippi State football coach Mike Leach, did you see this? Hospitalized and in critical condition, according to the Clarion Ledger, suffering a massive heart attack on Sunday. Oh, just awful. He's 61 years old. Third head coaching stint. Wow, just awful. Know him from his days at Texas Tech and Washington State. Coach of the Year honors in 2018. And, man, just awful. Mississippi State will play Illinois on January 2nd in the Relia Quest Bowl. Zach Arnett has been put in charge of the football program. But it just goes to show you, for all we get crazy about sports and the results and who wins and who loses and all these different things. And, you know, a coach of a team basically has a massive heart attack, and it puts it all in perspective. It just snaps you back to reality for that moment. All right, we got another hour, or the rest of this hour, remaining in the show. We'll hear from Cliff Kingsbury on the condition of Kyler Murray and more. Stay with us. Hey, I was calling you before. What happened? Did you disappear? Yeah. No, the other you. You said my name and then you disappeared. No, I was right here. I kept yelling your name and I never heard back from you. Did you go to the bathroom or something? Oh, no. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. For the podcast so far, the Chris Beard thing that I did, let's do the first segment where I went around the league from the first hour, the Nick Ferguson interview, and Chris Beard, the Chris Beard stuff. That's it. Most of this hour will be post game. Yeah, you know what? Let me check something on that, because hopefully I didn't screw it up. Might have to be on your end, but I'll tell you in a second. Yeah, no, I'll tell you. Hold on. $12. Please work.
Very clearly a formula that is working in Detroit. So far be it for us to say, hey, more of this, more of that.
Is there an offense that has more integrity than the Philadelphia Eagles right now?
Yeah, it's going to have to be on your end. Yeah, that's my fault. When I record, even though I was recording the interview, I had my audio muted on my recorder for the first 15 seconds of the interview. Yeah. Yep. Just you could play it as is. I do it that way on purpose. Yep. "12 minutes past the hour. Well, I mean, we already knew the Cardinals season was effectively over. They had 4 wins coming into tonight. But you lose your quarterback, and it just hurts a little more. Because if you're Cliff Kingsbury, you've had injury problems with this team all year. You had DeAndre Hopkins out for a period of time because of I think it was a PED suspension, if I'm not mistaken. So, I mean, you're talking about all these different types of things that have befallen this team. And now you get them all back together. You got a primetime game. You're playing the Patriots. Chance to play some spoiler. And 77 seconds into the game, you lose Kyler Murray. And it's just such a gut punch. No matter how resilient your team is. I mean, people are human. You wouldn't blame a team for folding up and closing up shop in a situation like that. So after the game, Cliff Kingsbury goes to the podium, and the very first thing he's asked about is Kyler Murray.
Update on Kyler, any news?
It doesn't look good, but we'll know more in the morning.
What kind of emotional toll does something like that take on a team?
Yeah, it's tough. There's no doubt. You see teams go through it every week, but you lose your starter on third play of the game. Kind of a deal, non-contact. It's just tough to watch and see, and you got to be able to rebound and continue to play the game, though.
You were up on the field when he was being checked out. Would you say to him?
Yeah, I mean, we just was kind of asking what was going on from the medical staff, and obviously it didn't look good. And I've never seen him in that type of shape, so I assumed it wasn't good.
You had chances offensively with Cole moving the ball, but the 2 turnovers just killers.
Yeah, the self-inflicted stuff offensively was really bad tonight. The illegal shifts on big plays, you can't do that. That's just unacceptable, and we got to be better. No matter who's operating, no matter who's in. Obviously there's some guys that are backups that are getting a lot of time. We just got to execute at a high level, and when you have a chance to make plays, you got to make them.
Cole had started 6 games, 11 years. So how ready is he to take on the kind of long term?
Yeah, he's ready. He's ready. There's no doubt. He's got a great feel for the system. I thought he did some good stuff tonight. It's always tough when you haven't had the reps during the week, but I thought he gave us a chance. Some of those plays that got called back, a couple tough drops, and then obviously the turnovers just put us behind the 8 ball.
To lose that ball. I mean, he was carrying it with one hand, kind of lingering it out there, but
yeah, I mean, he hasn't done that much, but in that situation, he knows you got to make sure you secure that, and it just can't happen in that situation.
6 sacks as well, Cliff. That can't happen either to get any momentum offensively.
Yeah, that really happened late with our O-line. Some of the injuries we had there. If you're one-dimensional against that team, it's going to be tough sledding, and that's really where those started showing up. We got down a couple scores; they could pin their ears back, and that's not what we're built to do right now with how it's set up.
At the end of the first half, when went for it on 4th and 1 instead of a field goal, was that related at all to Matt not hitting the long ones the last game or 2?
Yeah, I mean, I think more. I like the play call we had. I thought we had a shot at it, and unfortunately, they got a hand on it. But, Matt's been a clutch kicker in this league for a long time, so that was just a decision based on the play call.
What's the situation with Zach Allen?
Some sort of hand. He didn't come back, so we'll have to check that out in the morning.
How much of the playbook can you not use with Colt compared to?
Yeah, just some of the more movement, quarterback run stuff obviously is out, but Colt has a good job, a good eye for the pre-snap progression stuff, and so we just have to adjust the game plan. The game plan was built for Kyler, but I thought he came in and executed the things we asked him to do at a high level at times.
I'm just thinking about this, and that's Cliff Kingsbury post-game talking about the loss tonight. And just move away from him for a second. We'll get to Belichick and Mac Jones in the next segment. You think about all the talent. It's a remarkable thing to actually think about. When you think about talent, and I get that quarterback is arguably the most difficult and most important position on a football field. But just think about this from a mathematics standpoint. Think about the game of professional football. We got 30 teams, 32 teams, whatever it is. 32 teams. And you think about all the depth in the NFL at the running back position, all the great receivers in the game, all the tight ends, all these great defensive stars, and the league builds around these various things, as you would expect. But when you think about the quarterback position in this league, you can't even fill 32 spots. And don't get me wrong, this might be like one of those golden ages for quarterback play in the NFL. When you think about some of the great quarterbacks, when you look around the league and you go through the standings, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, whatever you think of Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Tua coming into his own, Justin Herbert, Trevor Lawrence starting to show signs. Russell Wilson and what he's been, throughout his time in the league. Jalen Hurts, Kirk Cousins, Dak Prescott, Geno Smith, the year he's having. Tom Brady, obviously, the GOAT. Jared Goff having what he would call a career year. Aaron Rodgers, a future Hall of Famer. And you continue to go on and down the list. Matthew Stafford, a Super Bowl winner. But through all that, as much as you can go through that, you still, not only do you have a hard time just filling the 32 NFL starting quarterback spots, you don't have anything for depth in this league. I mean, how many good backup quarterbacks are there in the league? 7? Maybe 6? That in this whole country, all these great college players, all these different guys that are there, you can't even find 64 capable NFL quarterbacks. And don't get me wrong, there's some people that go undrafted who wind up being stars. We know about the story of Tom Brady. You see what's going on with Brock Purdy right now in the 49ers. But just think, and maybe this is a compliment in some sort of backhanded way about how tough it is to be an NFL quarterback. That you cannot find 32, much less 64 of them in a nation of how many people? Think about that. Hey, Google, what's the population of the United States? There you go. Population of the United States. 331 million people live in the United States. Think about that. You have 331 million people living in the United States as of 2021. And you can't find 64 guys that are good NFL quarterbacks. So when you go all crazy about, well, so-and-so gets paid too much. I can't believe fill-in-the-blank quarterback got paid that much money. There aren't even 32 people in a country of 331 million that are capable of playing that position. There's a lot of doctors, lots of lawyers, firemen, policemen, all do amazing work. All are valuable assets to our community. All are important assets to our community. And people always say things like, well, they should make as much money as ... It's based on need. It's mathematics. I got news for you. If there were only 32 great cops, 32 amazing cops in America, they'd get paid $30 million a year too. It's based on need. It's based on numbers. And guys who play quarterback in the NFL are the very best at probably the most difficult position in all of professional sports. Think about that. A lot of sports been played. A lot of sports being played. These are the best of the best of the best. It's not even close. And you still can't fill 32 spots. If I gave you the opportunity, you still can't fill 32. It's remarkable when you think about it. You can find, if you go around this league right now, you can probably find 70 different guys that can run you the football, 80 different guys that can run you the football. You got plenty of wide receivers. Every team's got a bunch of them. Some have less than others in terms of the talent level, and sometimes some teams have more top-notch receivers, and there's sometimes an imbalance in that position. And same thing goes for a lot of other positions around the league, but there's a lot of guys that can play those positions. But when you talk about quarterback, even more so than a goalie in the NHL, I'm telling you, when you start to wrap your head around it, you start to understand why the position has the kind of respect it gets and deserves. 1-800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. What did Mac Jones and Bill Belichick have to say after a Patriots win that gets them to 7-6 on the season? Find out next on The Cash In on SportsMap Radio. Can you send me the last hour of the show tonight? Thank you. Kind of set the tone for the week.
Yeah, I think first off, just a little opening statement. Just want to send prayers to Coach Leach and his family. He offered me a scholarship at Washington State, and yeah, I think.
Good to get out of there just with a win and kind of set the tone for the week.
Yeah, I think.
"27 minutes past the hour. Cash in rolls along on this Monday. One 800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. Hit me up on Twitter if you want as well, at the back page. Mac Jones met with the media after the game. We were talking about Mississippi State head coach Mike Leach. And Mac Jones, post-game, Patriots quarterback, after a 27-13 win for the Patriots, gets them to 7-6 on the season. Very much in the thick of the AFC wildcard picture. But the first thing on Mac Jones' mind post-game was head coach Mike Leach. Take a listen.
How good to get out of there just with a win and kind of set the tone for the week.
Yeah, I think first off, just a little opening statement. Just want to send prayers to Coach Leach and his family. He offered me a scholarship at Washington State, and didn't ever meet him personally. I mean, I did, but it was on the phone. So just prayers to his family with everything going on. But yeah, I think the fans showed up today really well. Patriot fans were here and were loud, and I think it actually really helped us to bring up the energy. And it's always good when the fans can have our back on a road game. So really good to see that. And we came here to win, and that was the important part. So come out with the win however we had to do it, and I think it was a team win. And we're going to watch the film and get better.
How important was the swing at the end, the first half, to get the field goal, then come out, get another one, and then your defense helped take over? How important was that swing, a little complimentary football there to end the half in the beginning of the third?
I think, we had the one little fumble deal there, just learn from that, and fortunate to get on it and be able to kick the field goal. So, and then we get the ball back, right, and at half. So just trying to play good football, like you said. The defense obviously scored a touchdown for us, which was huge to kind of give us that lead there. And, we want to score more points. So we'll watch the tape and see what we can do better, as always. And biggest thing is get the win, right? That's all we came here for. And every day you have to fight to win. So that's what we're going to do.
He had some great passes to Hunter Henry. 2 39-yard strikes. Looking him off, looking one way and then throwing back the other. All of a sudden you got him open and you just delivering strikes to him.
Yeah, I think Hunter and Jonnu have done a great job for us in the tight end room, and Hunter just has a great feel for the game. He just wants to help the team any way he can, and same thing with Jonnu. So love those guys, and I'm going to continue to grow, hopefully, their roles and all that. And when they're on the field together, they're really good. So definitely want to expand on that and do those things.
Obviously missing some key pieces today. What can you say about the rookies who were able to step up between Pierre and Kevin and Marcus?
Yeah, it was a little bit of a hectic, injury game for us, but can't control those things. And obviously Mondre went down. He's one of our best players. So those guys stepped up, and obviously with Damian out, they had to step up. And the thing I told him was, for Kevin, it's just like SEC football. So go out there and do your thing. And you've played against really good teams, and that's what it is. And Pierre is the same thing. A young guy, but he's really fast, uses his speed well. So they did a great job, and they're going to have to step up again, and Marcus and everybody. So the rookies definitely did a great job, and super proud of them, and they just want to help the team win. So that's what we're trying to do.
Not going to have to wipe the smiles off their faces in the locker room just a few minutes ago. They were both giddy. Just
Yeah.
kind of what's that feeling like to see that, the resiliency, the exuberance from the offense?
Yeah, it's great. I think that's what we wanted to do, is try and win the game however we had to do it, and those guys made some great plays. The offensive line gave them the big holes, and the receivers got the blocks on the outside. So that's kind of how we want to play offensive football in the run game, and got to watch the film and see what we can do better. But that's a good defense to blitz a lot from different places and try and confuse you, and you just got to stick to your rules and go. So proud of those guys.
On a TV broadcast.
All right, so there you go. Mac Jones talking to the media after a win tonight, and it's one that gets the Patriots to 7-6. And I was wrong earlier. I said I didn't know if they'd leapfrog the Chargers for the last wild card spot. It turns out they do. So the Patriots are now, if the playoffs ended today, if the playoffs started today, I should say, Patriots would be in. It's just amazing. Mac Jones tonight, 24 of 35 for 235 yards, one interception for him in the game. No touchdown passes. But if the playoffs started today, it would be the Bills, Chiefs, Ravens, Titans. Your wild card teams would be the Bengals, Dolphins, and Patriots. And in the NFC, it's still amazing. Vikings, 49ers, and Buccaneers would be in. Cowboys, Washington, and the Giants. I'm sorry, Eagles, obviously the Eagles would be in. They've already clinched their spot. First team to clinch a postseason berth. Vikings, 49ers, Buccaneers lead their divisions. And then the Cowboys, Washington, and the Giants would be the three wild card teams. On the bubble right now in the AFC, the Chargers are first up, then the Jets. Both those teams 7-6, and then Jacksonville's way behind. That's not going to happen. As far as the NFC is concerned, the Giants are the last team in, along with the Commanders. I hope I didn't say Redskins. Commanders. Seahawks are the first team out, followed by the Lions. And again, with the Giants and Commanders playing each other, one of those teams is going to drop to 7-6-1. Of course, that tie is important because it obviously carries more weight than a loss would, but less than a win would. But the Lions still have a couple of ways to get in with 4 games left. And then the Packers and everybody else pulling up the rear. Bill Belichick at the podium.
We did some things better. Still got a long way to go. Had some young players step up and make some significant plays in the game. So it's good to get contributions from everybody. And short week here with Vegas, and we'll just kind of keep grinding and try to be ready to go on Sunday.
Coach, I want to bring up your draft class because your draft class has been outstanding this year with the rookies stepping up and producing. Are you pleased with the way these guys, next man up mentality, these guys are coming in and getting it done for you?
Yeah, well, it's everybody's got a role, and when their number's called, hopefully they'll come through for us. But these guys work hard; they all do. But certainly it's good to see some of the young guys, and even Schooler, Mitchell in the kicking game, and obviously the guys that scored the touchdowns, intercept the passes, like they're easy to spot. And Zappi had some contributions a little bit earlier in the year when he played, but but it takes everybody, and I thought we kind of had that tonight. We had everybody pulling tonight.
Specifically on Pierre Strong and Kevin Harris, how good is it to see the hard work for them pay off? Haven't played a lot this year, but obviously been putting in a lot of work.
Yeah. No, well, it's great. They get an opportunity, and they made some good big plays. We'll see if they can sustain it and show up, week after week, and people start looking for them.
Could you talk about the fumble return by McMillan? That had to be a key play of this game.
Yeah, no question. Yeah, Duggar made a good tackle, knocked the ball off Hop, and Hop beat us so many times. But it was a heads-up play by McMillan on the good scoop and score. Shows athleticism and speed to get into the end zone. So that was a huge play, obviously.
So there you go. Bill Belichick, that's about as much as you're going to get out of him. That's only because they won. That was effusive in his praise for Bill Belichick. So the Patriots win, and right now they are in the postseason. Amazing. And when you look at the remainder of their schedule, they now control their own destiny as far as making the postseason is concerned. They got a tough road, though. If you ask me, do I think they get in? The answer is no. At the Raiders next week, home for the Bengals, home for the Dolphins, at the Bills. They'll be underdogs in 3 of those 4 games. So make of that what you may. Probably an 8-9 team at this point. We're back with Nick Ferguson, former NFL safety, host of the Touchdown Denver podcast, next on The Cash In. All right, you're good on your end, right? This is you here. Cool. If you hear anything on my end and it sounds like it's delayed, it's just me playing the app version of the interview for my audience, so don't worry about it. Just make sure you don't have me potted up on your end.
The location you tell us to bring it to. You pack up your valuable possessions at your leisure. They stay safe right in your home. And when you're ready, call us. We'll come and pick up the container and give you a scheduled date of when your furniture and the other possessions will be at your new home. So if you're moving across country or across town, be a pack rat. Join the Pack Rat family. Call Pack Rat right now for your free quote. See y'all later, Pack Rats.
Call 800-616-1031. 800-616-1031. 800-616-1031. That's 800-616-1031.
Sports talk, only better. The Cash In with Jason Page continues on the SportsMap Radio Network.
We proceed on this Monday edition of the show, SportsMap Radio, and the SportsMap Radio app. Do teams really, is there such a thing as teams playing down to the competition? How real is that? I want to ask this guy, Nick Ferguson, former NFL safety, host of the Touchdown Denver podcast. He's also a Heisman selector, Heisman voter. Even though last week I put him on the spot and said, hey, tell me who you voted for, not knowing that the Heisman actually will take away your vote if you actually tell people who you voted for. So I want to apologize to start things off, Nick, because I didn't know that, and I was trying to like half-jokingly pressure you to tell me who you voted for. I didn't know they'd take your vote away if you told me.
Well, you know what? It's all part of the process. With every single thing that we do in life, there are rules and regulations. And listen, I don't fault you because you didn't know. You were just asking a friend a question, and it was all on me whether I was going to disclose to you who I was voting for or not, and I chose not to. You didn't know.
I'm glad you didn't, because I wouldn't want you to get in any hot water. So I was talking about the Cowboys and Texans yesterday.
Who I was voting for or not, and I chose not to.
I'm glad you didn't, because I wouldn't want you to get into any hot water. So I was talking about the Cowboys and Texans yesterday, and even in the case of the Chiefs, you can make this argument, playing down to the competition, playing to the scoreboard. How real is that? As a guy that's played in the league, has played, at the highest levels in both college and the NFL, not to mention the UFL. Don't ever forget the UFL. How real is the idea of playing down to the level of your opponent?
It is definitely a real thing. We see it in sports all the time. Because one team comes in knowing as though hey, they're not really competing for anything. And then they walk into the building and they go, hey, you know what? You flip the switch and we're going to be able to line up and play against this team that we feel is inferior. And sometimes, to be totally honest, there are guys who don't really study. And I've played a couple of guys known as though who faced an inferior opponent. And they didn't really study the way that they should have study, and then they got a rude awakening. It's like, okay. Now that this team, they may not have a great record, but they're playing for a job next year, and that's exactly what we saw with the Houston Texans. I mean, let's be totally honest. Being at 1-11, this is not a really good Texans team. And you can say, okay, well, maybe they're one quarterback away. They're one thing away from every single position. So it's going to take a little more for that team to be competitive. But that's exactly what happened in Dallas. They walked in and they told hey, this team is going to roll over. And then they saw that this team is going to have a little fight. And then they told, listen, hey, Dak, we need to make sure that we make plays at some point in this game to make sure they win the game. And I was watching that game saying, wow. Could you imagine what people are going to talk about if the Dallas Cowboys lose this game to Houston? If you think that going into the last 2 weeks, they've been talking negatively about the Cowboys and their chance to make the playoffs, knowing as though Philly is still sitting there, they would have ripped Dak Prescott and Mike McCarthy apart.
It's amazing how short-sighted fans are, though. And even the media sometimes. And I include myself in that. I mean, this team through 14 weeks is 10-3. If they had lost this year, let's just say that, God forbid, the worst case happened, and they wound up losing their 9-4. This team, what they've endured at the early part of the season and where they are now, I don't think people appreciate how good of a job this team has done to be where they are, the position they're in right now. Yeah, they're probably not winning the division. That goes without saying unless Philadelphia has a massive collapse. But I still feel like with that defense, and I know yesterday was not their greatest example and their shining moment, I still think this team's got a shot. I know people don't believe in Dak, and rightly so. He's only won once in the postseason, and if I'm going to kill Lamar Jackson for the fact that he's only won once in the playoffs, and then I get it. But I still feel like this Dallas team has the potential to do something really special. At least get in terms of getting out of the NFC.
Yeah, absolutely. They're kind of like a dark horse, nothing flying on the radar, especially looking at what Philly has done, and they're playing fantastic. But this is the part of the year where you want to start to get healthy and start playing your best ball. And let's be totally honest, when you look at that Cowboys offense, I don't see a lot of threats from an offensive standpoint. You have Pollard, you have Zeke, you have CeeDee Lamb, you have Dalton Schultz. But once again, it's about about the arsenal. Having a bevy of weapons to roll out there. And I think if T.Y. Hilton, who they signed today, can get on track, now he becomes a guy that you can use in the slot. You can use his vertical speed to open up the short intermediate route for a guy like Dalton Schultz and CeeDee Lamb. So I know everyone was hoping that, hey, Odell Beckham Jr. is going to go to Dallas.
Not me.
I'm with Jerry. I don't know what he is right now. Yeah, there's a lot of hype around him because he's Odell Beckham Jr., but he hasn't played and we haven't seen him run.
I had let me tell you, Nick, I did not want that team. And I'm not a Cowboys fan. I'm a fan in the sense that I think they could do something special this year. But I'm not coming at this with fanboy goggles on. I never wanted them to sign Odell Beckham Jr. because I'm of the mindset he comes in with a distraction. He comes in with an expectation of getting a certain number of touches. If he doesn't, he becomes grumpy and starts crying on the sideline. I think that T.Y. Hilton was such a better bet for this team over the short term. You don't have to make any long-term commitments to him like you're going to have to with OBJ. Frankly, I'm shocked that T.Y. Hilton wasn't still in the league somewhere already.
Yeah, that's the kind of interesting thing about the league, right? NFL, not for long. And I believe Jerry Glanville coined that phrase. And it is really difficult because you got to think about it. I mean, and I always tell young players and teams when I say this, but it is true. You have to look at yourself like an independent contractor because when you're giving your team your best years, everyone loves you. All right, you sustain a couple of injuries, now you're injury prone. They kick you to the curb, they bring in a new, fresh model. And they just tell you that you're outdated. One thing about T.Y. Hilton, you're absolutely right. I was surprised that he was out there this long because I just look at his vertical speed. He still has exceptional route running capabilities, and he will help any team in the NFL looking to make that push. And more importantly, you don't have to make a long-term commitment. If you're a T.Y. Hilton, this is great. You got Dak Prescott throwing you the ball. If you have a great season and go to the playoffs, whether it's the first round or the second round, it helps you out. Because one, you get paid to extend your career. Other teams get a chance to see you, and then you get a chance to sign maybe with another team in 2023.
Yep. Talking with Nick Ferguson, host of the Touchdown Denver podcast, former NFL safety, joins us here on the Cash In on SportsMap Radio. All right, Touchdown Denver podcast is your baby. So let me ask you about the Broncos briefly here. Russell Wilson goes down with the injury late in the game yesterday, but through 3+ quarters, you kind of felt like this was the Russell Wilson or closer to the Russell Wilson that you signed up for at the start of the season if you're a Broncos fan. I know there's no moral victories when the team is 3-10, but was there something positive to be taken out of that loss yesterday?
Absolutely. And we know as competitors in sports, there are no moral victories. But there are some positives that you can take out. This is the second time this season that the Broncos offense scored 28 points. And it looked entirely different. I mean, the offensive line was banged up. They had to rotate 3 guys in at the left guard position, right? That tells you how bad things were for the Denver Broncos. And you're down 27-0 to a team that is almost at full strength in the Kansas City Chiefs. You had not beaten them in 13 tries, and everyone in the stadium starting the game was pretty much over. Josie gets that interception, and that was kind of the linchpin to starting to rally back by the Denver Broncos. And even though things didn't look that great for Russell Wilson at the beginning, it's cliche saying, but it's not how you start, it's how you finish. You got that team kind of fired up, and I mean, Jerry Judy, another guy who was criticized in Denver. 3 touchdowns. So if you were a fantasy owner, he had the same amount of fantasy points as Justin Jefferson. 33.3 fantasy points. So it was great to see Russell go out there and play the way he did in the team battle. That's the most important thing because this game was flexed out of Sunday night game in favor of the Chargers. Mighty Dolphins game. And you have to figure, looking back at it, the league had to be kicking themselves and say, listen, this was probably the game that we wanted to see, even though the score was 34-28. But it was really exciting towards the end. And it's seeing Russell lay his body on the line, trying to dive in and get those extra yards. He ended up being concussed. For me, as a fan, that's what I wanted to see. You were absolutely right. Jason, when you said, okay, but this is the Russell we expected to see. We saw him pulling the ball down, running, and oh, by the way, he led the Broncos in rushing. right?
That's a problem, though. At this age, he cannot be leading that team in rushing.
No, it's not something that you want for 17 weeks, but you know, at the sake of saying that there's going to be pressure, he was under pressure a lot. There was a escape hatch to the right side of that Broncos offensive line, and he took firm advantage of it. And I go back and I go look at early games of the season and say, well, if Russ had pulled the ball down and ran for a couple of first downs, maybe it would have helped extend drives when the pocket pressure started to break down. But it's one of those things that raises the question. Russ didn't run at the beginning of the season. The fans here in Broncos country were set. Now he's rushed, and he rushed for a couple of yards. He got injured. Now he's going to be in concussion protocol. I wonder how those fans feel about Russ now.
It's a good question. Can we all agree Minnesota's hot garbage? I don't care what their record is. I mean, you go 5 straight games giving up 400-plus yards. I don't care what your offense does. If you can't make stops in the postseason, it doesn't mean a damn what you do offensively, because good defenses are going to be good offenses come the playoffs. And this Minnesota Vikings team, I'm sorry, it is just not for real.
Well, I mean, I knew you were going to say that because you feel as though they're trash anyway. Now, the defense on the end has not performed the way that you would like for them to perform. But I still won't call them quite garbage because I still like what their capabilities are on the offensive side of the ball. And just think, I mean, hey, they played against the Detroit Lions team that's been fired up and playing some great football over the past couple of weeks, and you lose by 11 points. You know, it's not like you got blown out. And I know the idea. It's the Detroit Lions you lost to, but this is not your father's Detroit Lions. Dan Campbell has those guys on fire. So I'm not on board with you, JC, saying that the Minnesota Vikings are hot garbage. And I knew you could not wait. You couldn't wait on Sunday, right? As soon as I looked at my phone, it is a tweet from you. It was like he could not wait. You couldn't wait.
No. Couldn't wait. Sorry. Hey, look, I got to tell you this too. We only got a couple minutes, but you know, the Giants are the same thing. I was the last one to get off the Giants boat, and there's no lifeboats left for me because I hung on to this idea that the Giants had an identity. They could win with a combination of defense, running it with Saquon, but they've looked terrible the last few weeks. And Philadelphia really sent a message yesterday in New Jersey against Big Blue.
Well, see, that was your first problem, right? You hit your wagon to the Giants. And I don't know how, for some reason, you saw what they were doing and say, hey, this is a quality team. I believe in Daniel Jones. I believe in Brian Dable and Saquon Barkley is going to carry them over the threshold. No, I would have told you not. That wasn't going to happen because when you look at it offensively, outside of Daniel Jones being able to pull the ball down the run and handing the ball up to Saquon Barkley, who are you throwing the ball consistently outside the numbers? No one. So while you talk about the Minnesota Vikings not being able to stop anyone, apparently the Giants that hit your wagon to, they couldn't stop anyone. They couldn't stop a nosebleed. It was so interesting how Jalen Hurts and the Philadelphia Eagles just moved up and down the field. And I know the Giants scored 22 points, and it kind of made it seem like, this was a game, and then the Philadelphia Eagles just kind of pulled it up. No, it's not. You know, you want to talk about garbage? Those points was in garbage minutes. So, hey, that tells me a lot. You talk about the Minnesota Vikings, but you hit your wagon to the New York Giants. I can't believe it.
I'm a good host. I gave the guest the last laugh. See? That's what kind of a host I am. I am magnanimous. I gave you the last laugh. That's Nick Ferguson, host of the Touchdown Denver podcast. I didn't get to ask you about the Heisman, but we all knew Caleb Williams was going to win. Much deserved. I'll talk to you next week. Have a great week, my friend.
All right.
Nick Ferguson joining us on the show. We'll come back and wrap up the hour next. Don't forget to shoot me the last hour. Thanks. I got you again tomorrow, right? Oh, John tomorrow? Okay. What other days are you this week? All right. I'm off on Friday. Getting set to put the reps on this baby. Thanks again to Nick Ferguson for stopping by the show. Enjoyed talking with him. Always enjoy talking with Nick. If you miss anything from the show, make sure to head over to the Cash In podcast. It's cooked up fresh daily by our fantastic producers and engineers that work on this show. So if you miss any of the show, we get a condensed version of it for you. Take 3 or 4 of the best segments from the show, and we slide those into the podcast, which you can get on any major podcasting platform, Spotify, Apple Music, all those places. Again, the Cash In podcast available to you. If you can't listen to the show live every night, of course, on the East Coast, we're on until 1 a.m. Eastern. On the West Coast, till 10 p.m. Some people go to bed. You're more than welcome to go and check it out there. Busy week ahead. I want to do some college basketball tomorrow because you're starting to see some things take shape. And how about the UConn Huskies men's basketball program, now ranked 3rd in the nation? I mean, it was basically left for dead a few years ago when Dan Hurley took over the program. And now here they are, 3rd in the country after a hot start to begin the season. Just throwing that one out there. Whole bunch of baseball signings. We didn't get into them tonight. We'll get into those tomorrow. Go around free agency a bit. Thank you to Austin Rodriguez for producing and engineering it from Houston. I'm Jason Page. We'll catch you on the Cash In tomorrow, 10 p.m. Eastern. Bye! Thanks, Austin. Have a good night. All right, that does it for us on the video side as well. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks to those of you who checked out the show on video. I'll catch you all back here tomorrow night, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. Again, we're off on Friday this week. Actually, off on Friday for the rest of the year. And we'll be back to our Monday through Friday schedule to start the new year, but off on Fridays for the rest of the year. Thanks to everyone for tuning in. Catch you all back here tomorrow. Bye.